Hello, everyone. You are asking Ashley. And today's question is marriage for me? And I've been really thinking about this because I know a few people that are going through divorces, or they're in the separation phase, or they're just at the crossroads phase where it's like, I want to get out of this. So that really came to mind. Like, is marriage for me? Is it for everybody? And I honestly don't know if it's for everyone. Well, really, I don't think it's for everyone. And obviously, I am a Christian, so marriage is ideal for two people that want to create a life together, that are going to live together, that are going to, share their life, their bodies, children. That's, ideal for those people. But I feel like a lot of people today are getting married just for like a check mark. Like, okay, so, well, I'm this age and I've been with him for this amount of time, so here's the next check mark, I have to get married. So I feel like a lot of people get married for that reason, or a number of reasons that aren't the right reasons to get married. And then once they're in a marriage, they're like, I want to get out of it because this is not what I thought it was going to be. And he's not who I thought he was going to be, or she's not who I thought it was going to be. So now I want to go about my business. And I did a little bit of research for it. And statistically, women are filing for divorce more than men are. So I'm talking to the woman out here. Is marriage for you? I think we truly have to look at our lives and understand that when you become married, it is not going to be like that. And I feel like when people get married, they think that, they're going to be able to do most of the things they were doing before. And they don't realize that it's like a complete 180. And, you're not going to be able to do those things. And that was something, not necessarily do the things that I used to do, but that was something that I struggled with, because before I was married, I was such an independent person. Like, I always depended on myself. I always looked to myself for motivation and, those things. And when I got married, my husband, he is the type that he's like a real man's man. He wants, he wanted to take care of his wife. He wanted to take care of his family. So when I was so independent and I just wasn't really consulting him or, including him, some of my internally working things out, it just wasn't working. And our first year of marriage I was like, wow, I'm about to go about my business, because he was getting on my last nerves. And it took us really doing the work. We ended up, it was a small group for marriages, and we really dug into the church. We really got allies and people that have been, married for longer than we have and have been in the season that we were in, young kids and stuff like that. We were able to get out of it, and now we're in the happiest place we've ever been in our marriage. So that's great. But what I've learned over the times is that a lot of times you have a false expectation for marriage. So when people are getting a marriage, they think it's going to be like daffodils and daisies, or they think it's going to be exactly as if you've been with someone for, a good amount of time, you think, oh, it's going to be exactly the same. And it really isn't, because you're obviously becoming one. So your finances typically become one, and your day-to-day and your holidays and all these things become one. So you can't just be have independent thinking. You have another person that has a lot of say in what you do. And a lot of the things that I was kind of working with and really kicking around in my mind was the idea of the relationships with people before I met my husband wasn't the same. So a lot of things were changing in those relationships, and I didn't like that. I wanted things to still be the same with those relationships, but I didn't have a husband then, and I didn't have someone that came first all the time. So it was very difficult for that transition within those relationships. So is marriage for you? So I think that people really need to ask themselves that question. From what I was looking up, a lot of the reasons that people are getting divorced is because we have a modern mindset instead of the traditional mindset. So in modern times, women, I'm going to speak to the women. I can't really speak to men because I'm not a man. Women are different than we were 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. So of course, we have so many opportunities and we have so much choice, and we get to a marriage and it's like you're kind of fighting like what's how you're supposed to be, because obviously you want to be a wife and you want to do those roles, or you're being pushed to do those roles, but that just might not be you because you've been living in this modern time, modern woman, hear me roar type of lifestyle, and it just conflicts. So like, your husband might expect you to cook or do certain things around the house, and you might just be like, today I don't feel like cooking. That was something that me and my husband used to argue about. He wanted me to make him lunch, and I'm like, at that time I was in school studying for my master's, and I had a young child, so I'm looking at him like, you are not a priority. Like, I have this and this. You can make yourself some lunch, like whatever. But for him, it was a more like, it's the principle. Like, you're my wife, and that's something that, is important to me. So I want you to make time for it. You make time for things that are important to you. And it wasn't important to me, and that was clear. So we were both kind of wrong in that situation, and we were able to figure it out, because at the end of the day, your husband is first. So a lot of the goals and the dreams and the things that you might have had when you were single is just not what happens when you are married. And just from knowing, so the people around me are they're in very similar, status or, situations that I'm in. A lot of the people that I've talked to the most, they're all married. They're married to very successful men. And honestly, all of the women I know, they work. So they work in either for a company or something, and they do well with that, or they're working for their husband and their business, or they have a separate business. So I don't think that women really realize, especially when you marry someone that's doing very well, he's able to take care of you. I don't think women realize that it's still hard work when you get into those situations, because again, when you're dating someone, it's easy. They're paying for the dates, they're paying for the vacations, and you just see it's like, oh, this is easy. I'm taking care of myself, I'm living wherever. And then when I move with him, it should be even easier because it's one household. He was already paying the bills, so it should be easy. I'm gonna be put up, I'm gonna be, chilling and stuff like that. Like, no, when you become a wife to, and just from my experience, a man that is successful, a high value man, it is hard work. It's even so right now, I work for myself. I have businesses. I'm a mortgage loan officer. So I do have, things that I do separately. But as far as the whole cross lifestyle household business, that is my number one priority. So making sure my husband is taken care of, and he has businesses, so I have to even help him with those businesses, and then making sure the household is taken care of, making sure my children are taken care of. Like, I am on like 100% of the time. Like, literally, I'm sleeping I probably get 6 hours of sleep, and I'm checking emails, watching kids, chasing kids, calculating stuff, like all the rest of the day. Like, I just do not have the time to shut off. Like, I can't even read a book. I'm listening to audio books. I have to double duty. I'm doing this, listening to audio books, watching kids. Like, I'm doing a lot. And I feel like when people marry someone that is very successful and can provide, you think that oh, I'm just going to be taken care of. It's just going to be easy. And it's not, because typically a man that is, very successful in, corporate world, or he's very successful in his own business, they are, moving at 100 miles per minute. And you kind of have to move faster than them, because you're not only taking care of them, you're taking care of everything under that realm, especially if you have small kids. I have small kids, so yeah, I am on, and a lot of my counterparts are on. A lot of the people around me, like I said, that are married to those type of men, they have their own businesses. They're helping their husband in their own businesses. They're running their household. Obviously, when you are, at a certain level financially, you can afford help. So that's something that I lean on, because when I first got into my marriage, I was like, no, I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna clean. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I didn't even think about that, hiring people to clean my house. Like, it just seems so foreign because that's not how I grew up. But now, like, I have a house cleaner, and like, she is like a godsend. Like, if she gets sick or something, and I have currently I have a house cleaner, and she's been getting sick a lot, and I'm like, girl, you're gonna have to go, because I can't have you not coming. And I'm like looking forward to that, and you don't come, and then my house is a mess because my kids are all over the place. So that is something really important. I'm getting, a chef soon, and taking advantage of laundry services. We have this laundry, not a drive-through, but like a pickup laundry service. So they pick up your laundry, they come back and drop it off. They go to a few houses in my neighborhood. So I'm definitely gonna start doing that. And it's like, as we take on more stuff, it's like, you need the help. So yeah, you have help. It's not like you're a slave. People think, oh, you're submitting to your husband in slavery. Now, you're gonna have help when you get to a certain financial level. Like, obviously, when you're working your way up, you're going to be doing a lot. But as he becomes more successful, when your businesses become more successful, you'll get help. But even with that, like, it's not easy to continually take care of, it's like you're running a Fortune 500 company, because you got like the kids, you got your husband, you got people working for you. It's like so much going on. So I feel like people have a false expectation of what marriage is supposed to be, and they don't understand that, you have a covenant with God, and it's bigger than you. So a lot of the times I will be like, I feel like you're doing this to my husband, and I would just be like stonewall. Like, that's something that I do. Like, I used to like be very, very like, argumentative and be yelling and cussing and stuff like that. And that's just not who I am today. So I like totally shut down. So I'm like, I feel like you were doing this, and then I'll shut down. Now you can't really, make a long-term decision off your feelings. And I know, ladies, we're emotional. Like, we're like really, in tune with our feelings. And if we feel a way, and that's where like women's intuition comes from. If you have that feeling, you're just like going with it. But when it comes to a marriage and making, huge decisions that will impact your marriage, you cannot lean on your feelings and emotions. It's like, at a time when that first year, when my husband was getting on my nerves, I was like, I just want to be done. Like, it was like, I'm like over this. Like, it's just like, he's a good person. He's great, but it's like, it's not working. So like, bye. That's how I felt. And I really had to look into, obviously I was looking into church and, my pastors, and really, digging into like what marriage is like truly supposed to be. And it really was not about my feelings. Like, feelings, it's ebbs and flows. They go up and down. So it's not really about my feelings. It's something bigger than my feelings. It's bigger than really me. It's really about our legacy. And when you guys come together in a marriage and you realize you have a common goal and you guys are on the same team, then marriage becomes easier. And I think that a lot of people don't get that stride, and they don't get to that place where like we're on the same team. Like, I'm doing this to better you, because bettering you is bettering us. And that's, a lot of the reasons why, people get, divorced. And I feel like, unfortunately, men, they typically don't lead the charge in like figuring out we're on the same team. So it really, takes the woman to like lead that charge, and really like, you kind of have to fall on the sword and be like, listen, I'm going to submit to you. And sometimes you feel like they're doing the wrong thing as far as leading the household, but you just kind of have to do it just, in good faith, just to show them, like, give them a little so they can like kind of ease up and become soft and tender. And then you could kind of like shift and mold them to, the husband that you want to be. But a lot of times it's like, you got to stick to it, because, men, they just go off the deep end and they start, puffing up their chest and acting crazy. And it's like, you'd be like, ugh. But, you know, when you get married, you know, you make that covenant before your friends, you know, your family and God, and you kind of have to really be committed. Like, it's like a huge commitment. And I think people need to think about that. Is marriage for them? And I think that marriage is, you know, it's for most people, but a lot of times it's just not in that season of life. So I think people sometimes get married too soon, and sometimes people get married too late. So, for example, get married too soon. If, like, you have not had whatever experience that will fulfill you, and you put so much on your husband, like so much, like, I need you to, you know, build me up and stuff like that, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on a man. And if they're not able to live up to that, you know, boosting you up and giving you that security, then that becomes a detriment to your marriage. So that might be a season that's too soon for you. And it's not necessarily an age, because I don't think that, you know, 21 is too soon to get married, or even 18. I mean, it's up to whoever that person is. You know, some people are more mature than others. Some people, you know, have grew up different than others. Like me, for example, no, I was not ready to get married 18, 19, 20, 21, none of those ages, because I just wasn't seeing good examples for marriage, and I didn't understand what marriage was supposed to be, and I didn't know who I was. So me getting married would have been a disaster. I would have been divorced, disaster. It would have been a mess. So too soon. Or I feel like a lot of the times it's too late. So when people are mature and they, you know, are trying to get married, or maybe don't have kids and want to have kids, and they want to be married before they have kids, and they're kind of like in that season where, you know, they're, you know, kind of set in their ways and not willing to change. So they think that they're like good, and then they get married. So, you know, in their, I'm not gonna give it age, because it's not really necessarily age, it's really the person. But when you're older and you get married and you meet someone and you're not willing to change because you feel like you've been doing it good for this amount of time and you're good, and they have all of their baggage and all of their traumas, and then you have all your baggage, all your traumas, and you put it together, and it's just a hot mess. So I feel like that, you know, that's not too good for marriage, because people think, okay, I'm experienced, so that means that my marriage should be great because I experienced all these other relationships. But when you have all those other relationships, you have all that other trauma, baggage, and you have all those other comparisons. So it's like you kind of like build a husband. Oh, I want that one. I want this aspect from this boyfriend and this aspect from this boyfriend, and I want to find a husband that's perfect because, you know, he had this, and it's like the 80-20 rule. So the man you're with had 80% of the things you want, and then he doesn't have that 20, so then you leave to find that man that has that whatever 20%, but all the other stuff is all a hot mess. So then you keep leaving and trying to find whatever that man was missing, and he has that, but he's still got a whole bunch of stuff messed up. No one's perfect. So when you are more experienced than that 18, 19-year-old, you think, okay, I'm wise, I'm more experienced, then my marriage is going to be great. No, because sometimes those characteristics that are not that good for a marriage has been reinforced. So you think that, you know, you living good, you doing good, and this is going to be doing good in the marriage, and it's not giving marriage, it's giving single. So no. So I really think more people should ask themselves in that season of life, because I don't think it's necessarily a person, you know, marriage is not good for me. It's in that season. Is marriage for me? I think if we ask ourselves that, then it will be less divorces and less broken hearts and less broken families. And, you know, us as a community will just be stronger. And there are certain scenarios where people get married for the wrong reason. If you're looking online and you see whatever friends and all your friends are getting married, and you feel like, oh, I should be married, and you get married for that, girl, it's gonna go bad. So make sure you're in the right season. Thank you guys for chatting with me today. Thank you for coming back to my channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this content. Come with come comment. Tell me what you guys want to ask me and what you guys want to talk about. I have so much experience, not necessarily with relationships, but with finances and mindset, and I truly changed those things, and it made, for the best life that I'm living. I want you guys to live that best life that you want to live. See you guys next time on Asking Ashley.